and welcome to the Sportscast, April 17th, 2018. We just lived the first weekend of the playoffs of the NBA playoffs 2018. Two upsets. Most of the home teams have won, and we had two games last night. And we have Ryan Christa on the line. Ryan, welcome to the Sportscast.
Thank you, Santiago. Glad to hear talking some important NBA playoff basketball.
Now, from the weekend, besides last night, which series really surprised you, or which one that you really liked the most?
Well, I guess the game that kind of, I called earlier on before the series started. I thought the Bucks would sweep the Celtics, and that was probably the game of the weekend was the Bucks and Celtics game one. Very entertaining, back and forth. Bucks beat her by the Bucks to force overtime. I guess I was just a lot of those role players for the Celtics really stepped up. During that game, and provided the offensive firepower they need. Whether they're going to be able to do that enough to win the series, time will tell. But historically great game by the Greek Freak again. He's just a fun guy to watch. So much different than any other player we have in the NBA right now. And I guess one of the biggest surprises, the Warriors have played so not Warriors basketball the last month of the season, dealing with a lot of injuries, but they've really come to play and they've shot the ball better than they have in a long time. And I thought the Spurs would put up a little bit better of a fight than they have in the first two games.
Yes, was the Warriors
kind of my biggest, surprises?
Were the Warriors saving their energy for the playoffs?
It looks like it. When you've gone to the finals 3 straight years and you're expected to do it again, the regular season can kind of seem a little mundane and boring, especially with injuries. They haven't been full strength in a while. They still aren't full strength without Steph Curry, but, their defense intensity is there, and they're shooting the ball. Last night, they're 16 for 31 from that three-point line. Any team that shoots like that, it's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah. Let's go over Game 2, the games from Monday night. The Miami Heat defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 113 to 103. Josh Richardson had 14 points. James Johnson had 18. Goran Dragic had 20 points. Wayne Ellington had 11. And Dwayne Wade had 28. Thoughts?
By far probably his best game since coming back to the Heat this year. Just provided that, another team, that's going to struggle to consistently score at times, but, the Dwayne Wade can be vintage Dwayne Wade and being able to hit those tough shots with defenders on him. This team is, they're going to be a hard out for the Sixers, and the wild card of this series is when Joel will be coming back. He's a guy that averaged 20 and 10, and it's going to be, once he comes back, it's going to be a lot different series. I think you're going to see a lot more of Hassan Whiteside, who has been pretty hasn't even been there on the court, it seems like, most of the game. It seems like they're either going with no center or they're going to play a lot of Bam or Bajo, but, they're going to need a lot of Hassan Whiteside once Embiid comes back. But, the Sixers are bound to have a clunker, and I think that's more or less the Sixers having a bad game than the Heat having a great game.
The 76ers, Daryl Saric had 23 points. Ilyasova had 14. J.J. Redick had 11. Ben Simmons had 24. Marco Bellinelli had 16. What happened to the Sixers last night?
It just isn't, they shot the ball so tremendously well in Game 1. Those shots they were hitting in Game 1, they weren't coming, they weren't falling for them. They seemed a little bit out of sync. They weren't, this team plays a lot out of transition, when you got a 6'8" point guard who, can has smooth handles and is quick down the court. This team does not play well in the half court and looks to run and get, run to that three. A lot of that Warrior style run and get to the 3-point line, and then drive to the basket. Those shots they were hitting in game one just weren't falling for a lot of, but it just didn't seem like they had that rhythm, and then they fall behind, and then they get that mojo, and credit to the Heat, when it got down to 2 points in the fourth quarter, they didn't fall. They hit the Sixers back, and the Sixers couldn't respond, and therefore it was a 10-point game when all said and done.
If or when Joel Embiid comes back in this series, or for the first time making an appearance in this series, do you think he'll make a difference?
It's hard for me to say he won't make a difference. To me, he's the most talented player on the Sixers, so it's hard for me to believe that is he going to be the Joel Embiid that we've seen last year. Probably not, but they don't have right now anybody that they started Amir Johnson, who is a good defender, good rebounder, but you're never going to pass the ball to him and hope he gets you a basket. He's there for defensive purposes and rebounding. That's about it. You put Embiid down there, now you got a good defender, rebounder, and now you got a guy who can make tough contested shots.
One name that I did not see. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
One name that I did not see. That I was surprised I never heard of him until this series was Dario Saric.
Oh yeah, this is a guy they drafted. I think number 3 or number 5, quite a few years ago. He was kind of a decent athlete. Thought he was going to be a low post player, but he put on a little bit of weight here in his first couple of years. It's kind of turned into a jump shooter. This team is full. They're not consistent enough jump shooters, I think, to win a championship this year. But they got the makings that they keep this core group together. With Simmons and Bede and Sack. This is a young rat team, and it keeps with veterans, like Silva and Redick and Bellinari. This team, this is making for a team that's going to be around for a long time. And we're not even talking about Mark Alfos, who's the number 1 pick in this year's draft, who right now is just kind of a, plays a little bit of time each game, but he's not going to probably be a difference maker. But this team has got such a bright future.
This team is the team of the future. Now, how Miami played last night, do you think Miami can maintain this type of momentum and maybe win their next 2 home games?
I think they're going to, with the home crowd, they're probably going to, they're going to come out strong. The key to game 3 is, the Heat will probably jump out to a little bit of a lead. It's how the Sixers respond to that, being a young team and most of them being in their first playoffs, how they're going to react to being the road team is a lot different than being the home team. The Heat, are they going to play, make those tough shots as they did last night? It's especially with Dwayne Wade, you can't guarantee it, but, I think they're going to play with that extra little bit of energy, and I think it's going to come down to the final few minutes in Game 3. And, the Sixers are probably hoping to get a split and, get home court advantage back, then I think this year, will ultimately go to the Sixers if they can at least get a split in Miami.
How do you see this series ending?
After last night, I'm going to say Sixers and 6.
Sixers and 6. I chose Sixers and 6, even though I'm a Miami Heat fan. But last night, it gave me some optimism. But like you were saying, if we see vintage Wade every game, then we have a chance. But there's no guarantees of that.
The Heat is, in the offseason, they're going to have to try to go and find. I know Deion Waiters is, not available right now, but you got to go and try to find a shot maker consistently outside of Dwayne Wade and Dragic. That's kind of what the team is looking. Wayne Ellington can make shots, but that's basically all he can do. Yeah, I find that a good shot maker and a good overall basketball player.
The second game last night was between the San Antonio Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors went up to 2-0 in the series last night, and San Antonio. Here's what the spread looked like. Rudy Gay had 12 points. LaMarcus Aldridge had 34. Patty Mills had 21. Manny Ginobili had 10. And Paul Gasol had 12. Golden State, Durant had 32 points. Draymond Green had 9. McGee had 10. Klay Thompson had 31. Iguodala had 14. And David West had 10. McGee was on fire last night.
It's kind of, JaVale McGee, for his whole career, has never been a mark of consistency. But, every once in a while he comes on the court and he's a freak athlete. He can block shots and, you throw that ball to the rim and he can go up and get it. He's just never been able to consistently come on the court and be that factor that the teams that he's played for need him. That's why he's always going to be hit or miss. But last night he was definitely hitting.
And the Spurs, Aldridge is their main player, but he had a good, strong 34 points, but it was not enough for the Spurs to win the game. Are the Spurs out of luck?
It looks like it, And if you listen to sports radio, the only thing they seem to be talking about is kind of that Kawhi Leonard, mysterious, weird, distraction that the Spurs players, win or lose, are always answering questions about Kawhi Leonard and, have they talked to him? What's the issue? But just, it's something we've never seen, especially the Spurs, but it's just an odd situation where you got a player who basically said, I don't want to play right now. I don't feel comfortable, and he's basically left his team. Not a good situation right now. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the off season. But it does look like the Spurs are not going to be lasting more than 3 games at the most.
And what are the chances for Kawhi Leonard to come back for the Spurs next season?
I don't, I guess I would say 50-50, he's got 1 year left. The Spurs want to sign this long-term extension. Ultimately he can make the most money with the Spurs in this contract, but they could trade him and trade his rights, and he could sign a long-term contract with somebody else. Does he not feel comfortable with the Spurs and their management? It's going to be one of those questions, we'll try to figure out come July when the new season begins. And
how do you see the series ending?
I give the Spurs, I think they'll win one of the next 2 games in San Antonio. I'll say Warriors in 5.
Warriors in 5. Spurs take a win. I don't see it. I see it as a sweep after seeing these 2 games, but you never know with the playoffs, the drama, the consistency, and this is good for Steph Curry. I think it's a good sign for him that he might just rest this whole series.
Yeah, no, this is the best news of the Warriors because, even if the Spurs win one of these next 2 games, they shouldn't go past 5 games. And we'll see what happens when round 2 happens.
Let's go for predictions. Washington Wizards and Toronto Raptors tonight for Game 2.
The Raptors, back to their old mark of, being this team. Obviously, 2 superstars at the moment with DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. But what's different about this team is just that the bench, they got this, what they call themselves, the bench mob, but they keep hitting you with, relatively unknown players. It seems like that every game is a new player that comes out of nowhere. Last game is a DeLon White, without Fred VanVleet, who typically runs the point in the 4th quarter. This DeLon White comes out, a 3rd or 4th year player, and hits key wide open shots. It was kind of the difference in the game. Are they going to find another player that comes tonight that makes a difference? I think the Wizards they're going to try to steal this game because they'd be happy with the split. So I'm going to go with the Raptors in a close game tonight.
I'm going for Toronto as well. They had a close game on for Game 1. So it might be the same thing in the battle of the backcourt. But
like I said before this series, this is not your typical 8-1 matchup. I don't think there's a huge talent difference. I just think that Wizards definitely underachieved during the regular season.
I always thought this might be the closest thing to a sweep, but you say it does not.
No, I think Washington will win 1 or 2 games, especially come the end of this week when the series goes back to D.C.
Talking about an upper seed against a lower seed, Milwaukee Bucks against the Celtics. What is your prediction for that game tonight?
Oh, I think the Bucks. I think they just need to play consistent, play to their talent level, and they should win this series. And I think that's going to start with a big Game 2 victory tonight. I think they win, and they win by 10+ points.
I think so too. I think the Bucks were very close in Game 1, and I think they've okay, we know how to do this.
They just had a little bit more intensity on the defensive side of the ball. I think this team should win this game and should win this series.
New Orleans Pelicans versus the Trailblazers.
Game 1 was a very interesting game where the Pelicans held on at the very end. For most of the first half, Bullard and McCollum for the Blazers only scored 3 points. They were slow getting started. In the second half, they were able to make a pretty big comeback. Had a couple opportunities to take the lead. They just couldn't make those key shots. I think the Blazers put it all together tonight and hold Anthony Davis down, and I think they win this game big.
Yeah, Lillard did not have a good Game 1, or his colleague.
No, they were just kind of in a little bit of funk. But as bad as they played for most of the game, Lillard and McCollum, they were still in at the very end, which is kind of a good sign for the series overall for the Blazers.
Yeah. I think I'm going to say the Blazers. I want the Pelicans to win. I mean, I really do think they have a chance, but I think the Blazers would not forgive this one, and I think they'll come back and win it. But the playoffs are shaping up, and Game 2 it's a very early stage. Things are going to get a little bit warmer, a little hotter. But how are your Penguins doing for the Stanley Cup playoffs?
But Friday night they had a little bit of a stinker in Game 2, but series moved back to Philadelphia on Sunday, and they responded with a big 5-1 victory. And it would have helped that got good goaltending in the first period, and the Flyers kind of really took it to them, but the Penguins settled down in the second and the third period and really dominated the game.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the Penguins are favorites. I've been hearing that. But, who do you think has a chance to get to the playoffs deeper? The Bucks or the Pelicans?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks because I just don't think there's probably more resistance in the West than there is in the East for the Bucks. Like I said, I think the Bucks are again kind of a little bit of an underachieving team with the talent they got. I'm thinking this team will be a top 2 or 3 seed next year in the playoffs. Pelicans, they really kind of go as Anthony Davis goes. Drew Holiday's playing well right now, but even if they're able to get past the Blazers, I don't think they're going to be able to get past the Warriors.
And
but I do think the Bucks are able to get past the Celtics. I do think they would have a good shot against either the Sixers or the Heat.
And even though Philadelphia is even though Philadelphia is a 3rd seed, do you consider them a dark horse?
Oh yeah, because if you saw Game 1, when they shoot that ball well, they're a tough team to beat. Scoring 130 points in the playoffs is quite a feat. But you saw last night when they struggle, they don't hit those open shots. They'll have a hard time putting points on the board because they rely so much on that transition, game when getting and then running to those 3-point line. But they kind of got to be able to find in the middle from last night to game one and find that consistency. And yes, I do think if everything falls right, they could definitely make a run to the playoffs. A run through the playoffs to at least the Eastern Conference Championship.
And finally, can Indiana beat Cleveland?
That was, here's a question, was that game one onslaught by the Cavaliers, was that more of the Pacers playing well or the Cavaliers playing bad? That's why I can't wait for game two in the series to see how this shakes up.
Oladipo.
I wanted to say it was the Cavaliers playing bad, but I think it's got a little bit of both on game one. Like
you said, we cannot underestimate LeBron James. Ryan, how can people reach you?
They can reach me on Twitter at the Mad Dog Report. Look me up on Facebook. Always looking to talk to people about the NBA and sports in general.
And will you be watching the 10:30 game tonight?
Yeah, I'm drinking my coffee right now. I don't drink coffee. I'm drinking my Pepsi Max, as you would say. My wife is gearing up for a big night.
Oh, really? You watch like the West Coast games?
I don't. I try to catch some during the regular season, but in the playoffs, you got to make sacrifices. Some tiring mornings, but
You're probably,
you got to do what you got to do.
You're probably one of the few East Coasters that watch the West Coast games. I commend you. I do not. I usually turn off the middle game around like 10 o'clock at night, after the third quarter, and I can't do it. But that's why they're Sports Center, and that's why their ratings are high in the morning. Ryan, thanks for coming on to the Sportscast.
All right, sounds good, Santiago. Mindy, I love you and Cleet. Bye-bye.